What's up, guys? Eugene Cisco here. We're talking real life and law. I am an attorney, by the way. I think you should know that because I talk a little bit about the law and about you. And we're going to talk a little bit about the Charlie Kirk pretrial. Well, it's not Charlie Kirk's pretrial, it is Mr. Tyler Robinson's pretrial. And we know what happened on that day. Uh, when Charlie Kirk was assassinated, and, a lot of evidence out there, today in the last few days. Now, we it was a pretrial conference, so first off, it's not a trial, and we need to understand that it is just a pretrial, not a trial, so there's a little difference in a pretrial. So some of these comments I'm gonna have to guys, and you have comments here. You can comment. Uh, I would rather you ask a question. I would rather you ask a question from my YouTube channel, and let's get this thing a cracking up today, guys. So we're gonna get some questions coming from YouTube. And FB, guys, YTFB, and I'm also streaming on the TT. So, um, let me see. Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation about that, and I'm gonna turn down some of the chat noise here, and so that way it's not as distracting to me. All right. So let's roll with what we know. What we know is that Tyler Robinson at this point, Tyler Robinson at this point is the only one that has been accused. Nobody else been accused of that heinous crime. Nobody, nobody, nobody has been accused. Okay. First off, we'll start from there. There's nobody else. Um, and the evidence, if you look so let's start with first thing and talking about what a probable cause hearing is or a pretrial hearing. Pretrial hearing is just a probable cause hearing. Well, we call it probable cause if you're a lawyer. And it is there's 2 things to be discussed during a pretrial. Number 1, was a crime committed? That's the first question. And number 2, is the accused person the one that is more likely to have committed that crime? Just 2 things, that's it. It's not a trial, there's no guilt or innocence, it's just a formality. When someone is accused or indicted, you get this pretrial, preliminary hearing. It's not a pretrial, it's a preliminary hearing. And, the judge is sitting there through all this evidence and trying to determine those 2 questions. He's gonna be answering those 2 questions. Now, that judge says tomorrow. The way that that evidence has been presented, there's been a crap ton of objections by the defense, and, you've got the prosecutor who wants all of this stuff out in the open, and you want the defense that's trying to sequester or keep a lot of the evidence quiet. Uh, and for good reason, because the evidence today, um, I don't think the judge needs to hear anymore. I don't think the judge needed to hear anything more, um, after the first day. I think those 2 questions could have been solved by that judge on the very first day. So, fact of the matter is he's the only one accused, and I think there's a couple of reasons for that. Now, if I was the defense lawyer, Uh, now he's been charged with capital murder and they're seeking the death penalty. So if you're Tyler's lawyer, the first thing you might want to do is try to negotiate some kind of plea agreement, some kind of plea bargain. But I'm not sure that that prosecutor has offered. Tyler and his team any plea deals because I'm not sure if I'm a defense lawyer, if I want all this information out there right now. I just don't think I do. I think it's gonna make it or maybe they do because their argument is it's gonna be hard to try to find a jury. So so the more of this stuff that gets out there, and the more of this stuff that gets out there, the more likely it is going to be hard to find a jury that hasn't heard about it. So, and a lot of times, if you're just banging around an old, district level court or a small misdemeanor court, or maybe even felony court, when you have a pretrial, when you have a preliminary hearing, a lot of times a defense attorney will bargain that away in exchange for maybe a lower bond or something like that. But I'm not sure what the disposition is of that prosecutor. Now, a lot of prosecutors are very political animals, and this prosecutor may see this as a way for him to get out from underneath that desk. And after this trial is over, he could write a book, do a movie, and he's got some money in his pocket and doesn't have to practice law. A lot of lawyers hate practicing law. And when they get a shot like this, when they get an opportunity like this, they're going to take it and they're going to make the most of it. So they want all of the limelight. They want a lot of the limelight to be shined on them. And this is a good way to do that with this kind of a trial because you got every news media outlet in the world on it looking at it. Because Charlie was an influential individual. And in fact, there's a lot of people that think he's personally responsible, not solely responsible, but he's one of the people that's personally responsible for getting Mr. Trump elected because Charlie Charlie Kirk spoke, uh, to young men. That was his audience, young men between the ages of 18 and 35. And so he spoke to those guys. And, you know, he was very influential. We had, in this last election, there was a lot of those men between those ages voted Republican that hadn't voted Republican ever. And so, he was very influential. I personally didn't know who Charlie Kirk was until about 6 months before the election, and I started seeing some of his stuff pop up on a lot of social media. And personally, again, this is my opinion, I didn't think he was a very good debater. I mean, he was chatting down, he was he was debating against college kids. 18, 19-year-old college kids don't know shit from apple butter, and that's who he was debating. I never saw him debate anybody of any substance. So, what he did, I thought was okay, and it was kinda lazy 'cause these kids didn't know anything, but now that's kinda how he got his fame and started he was a barnstormer going across the country signing up signing up people, um, getting people engaged in the political process, and there were some of his viewpoints that I just didn't like. He was a very conservative man, he's entitled to his viewpoints, he didn't certainly need to die because of them, and that's where we're at, but this I absolute someone in the chat's telling me I don't know who he was and what he did. I absolutely know who he is. I can read, I can see. So I didn't much care for him, but he didn't deserve to die. And Tyler Robinson is the only one that's been accused of doing that. So now if you've got good valid questions, you want to talk about it, we talk about the evidence. I want to hear them. So let's get after it. The best way to ask a question is go to my YouTube channel, YT, and ask it. If it's an intelligent question, I'll get it from TT over here, or you can look me up on Facebook. So, guys, let's get after it. I want a good question. There's a lot of chitter, and I think you know, Erica Kirk, his widow, Charlie's widow, wanted all of this evidence out, and there's some of the evidence that the judge, redacted, some of the stuff he redacted, some of the stuff the video he blacked out, and that's probably what it's gonna be at trial. Erica Kirk wants it all out in the open, and I think it should be. I'm not sure what the reasoning is for the judge to black it out, except that right now they don't want it out. Well, you know, there's a lot of people that think, Erica had something to do with it. Now, in a way, if you're a conspiracy theory person, that might not sound like a might not sound like a bad idea, but he, uh she didn't I don't think she had anything to do with it, but I can see if you're one to think that she would want control over that business and that corporation. I could it happens. People do people do murder for hire all the time. So, it's not out of the realm of any possibility. Do I think she had anything to do with it? Hell no. They're all making money on his gig. Robinson can get There's another question here in the chat as to who determines how many attorneys Charlie gets, or not Charlie, but Tyler gets. I don't know who determines that. I'm guessing he has a fund, that will help pay for his attorneys, or maybe he has a public defender. Certainly, it's gonna take a whole big team because there is a ton of evidence to go through. So, I think, you know, I can't answer that, because I don't really know, but I suspect he's got a bunch of people giving him money for his legal defense. I don't think choosing a lawyer is gonna be a problem for Mr. Tyler because there's a bunch of lawyers that would love to take that, so I don't think that's an issue. But, it's certainly a sad thing to see. I have a problem with the length of this, preliminary hearing. I think this judge should have had this done 2 days ago. And he can speed them up. A judge can speed up a hearing in a case. I had a judge that put you on a clock. Um, the judge would a judge would gather us, a old judge in West Virginia, he'd gather us before a trial, and he would say, "Okay, you got 30 minutes for this thing, you got 10 minutes for this thing, you got 20 minutes for that thing," and he ran a damn clock. So you knew before you stepped in that courtroom how much time you had, and you had to use it wisely because he was gonna cut you off. And a lot of judges will do that, put you on a time clock, especially like during a closing or during a open. So, this is a big deal for a lot of people in that courtroom. It's a big deal for the judge, it's a big deal for the prosecutor, and it's a big deal for the lawyers, for the defense. Yeah, I think that's a little bizarre too that he recognizes her. I don't get that. I don't understand why. It, if you are of a mind after hearing today's evidence, if you're of a mind that you think Tyler did not do if you are of a mind to think that he didn't pull that trigger, you're nuts. You're not watching and you're not paying attention. Did If you looked at the evidence today, the DNA evidence, his DNA was all over everything, the casings, the butt of the rifle, the scope, um, everything, everything, everything. There was There was nothing that didn't have his DNA on it, and so if you think yeah, they're just nuts. You just want if you believe that Mr. Kirk didn't if you believe that Mr. Kirk or Mr. Robinson didn't do that, you're delusional. You're just you want to believe that. You want to buy into the conspiracy. That's just nuts. No, 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 no. Um, someone made the comment that Erica seems a little bit forced when she's out there. Um, well, okay, that's a better question. Some there's a comment going through here that the judge is afraid, seems to be afraid of not getting the defense what they want. A lot of judges, you'll see a lot of courtroom judges will do that because judges don't like to get overturned. And one of the one of the easy way one of the ea one of the easier ways to overturn a case is for a judge not to give a defendant stuff that they want. And so you'll see a judge a lot of times will err on the side of the defendant to keep from the case overturned. They do it a lot. So that doesn't strike me as being unusual. Um, so guys, I am on the YT. If you want to ask a question, I hope I'm on the YT. I should be. I haven't gotten a comment on there yet. But let's, try to make it happen if y'all can slide over FB or YT and take a look. Yeah, someone in the chat is saying that there's only 56 days, um, that judge had on the bench. It don't matter. That judge has probably been a good lawyer. I don't know his history, but 56 days as a judge, I'm absolutely certain he's been in a courtroom, probably handled several murder cases. So I don't have any problem with qualifications of that judge. Um, I don't think that's gonna be an issue, but a lot of times you'll see him err on the side of the defendant in a lot of situations. That doesn't necessarily, um, speak oh, so someone in the chat saying he was a prosecutor. I don't know that for fact. What's oh, guys, if you have any good questions, just let them roll. Let's go, guys. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Go ahead, Kim. Well, someone wants to know if, Tyler will get the D penalty, and I'm gonna say it gently because some of my platforms here probably might not like that word. The prosecutor's asking for it, and if I was Tyler's lawyers, I would certainly take note that they're asking for that, and, I would probably, do my best to, avoid that. So, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I think getting it off the table, this is not the right way to do that. I wouldn't certainly do it. If that's what my goal was, I wouldn't have wanted a preliminary hearing. I would have tried to bargain away that preliminary hearing in exchange for that or something. Well, the forensics of the weapon, there wasn't much other than the DNA stuff on the forensics of that weapon. Mostly what you've seen on that weapon, I don't think they went into Now, I if there was, I missed the calculation of the way that, um, ordnance, traveled. I didn't get any of that. I didn't see any of that. No, K. Robin, I said that earlier. Someone in the chat said, "I can't imagine that the prosecution will bargain this way." No, for a lot of reasons. I think but the big reason, if truth be told, I think the prosecutor probably wants this limelight, and I honestly don't think he's going to I don't think he would be putting this kind of a evidence on if, he was gonna bargain it away. I don't see that happening. Um, I don't. So I think they're gonna plow away for a trial and see what happens. Yeah, I honestly someone asked me about Candace Owens. I So my thoughts on Miss Owens is, mixed. I really like her. I like her energy. Um, but I think Candace may have kinda stepped off the deep end a little bit, um, with a lot of her conspiracy theories, and it started some time ago, after she left the Daily Wire. She was with the Daily Wire and Ben Shapiro and that group. The stuff she's peddling now the stuff she's, peddling now, I think is clickbait. I honestly can't believe that she believes anything she's saying. When it comes to the Macrons, the French leader, um, and with Charlie, there's a lot of people that think she was infatuated with, Mr. Kirk and is jealous of Erica, and there's all kinds of infighting. Because all those if you think about it and you go back in time, that Turning Point TPUSA, founded by a bunch of young people in their 20s, they were in their early and mid-20s. A lot of hormones and testosterone going around, and, I think Candace was in there early on and kinda got I think she thought she was a pick me girl, I think, um, and I think Erica came on the scene, and, uh, and I'm not so sure Candace received it very well. But at the same time, I just don't but I originally liked her positioning in a lot on a lot of issues. I think she's probably, um she articulates pretty well the plight of the African American and slavery and all of that. Um, I like her for some things, but I think she's a little bit I don't watch her anymore because it's from from where I sit, it's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, so I'm not a big fan. That, yeah, and someone in the chat is echoing what I just said about um, the romantic thing, her and, Charlie. Yeah, that's a lot of people that say that. That's why she left when Erica came on the scene and he picked Erica. She got her panties in a wad and left. So, I mean, who knows that? Candace will never answer that question. She's smart. She'll never maybe in about 30 years, she'll answer that question, but she ain't it now. Someone do me a favor. Oh, I do have a Facebook comment, but it was not read to me. Oh, someone wants to know, does the judge have a certain amount of time to determine whether or not he's going to trial? No. A judge in any kind of courtroom set their own docket. He don't march to the beat of any drum except his own. But now judges, since he's new, he might not know that judges also have to be mindful of how a jury looks at things. Jurors don't like to be sitting in that chair any longer than they have to. And if a juror sees that a judge is allowing a particular lawyer to ramble on and go on and on and on, they ain't gonna like that judge, and they're not gonna be, they're they're not gonna be easy to deal with. So a judge should be mindful of how this evidence, the time frame, and all of that that goes on. And I have another question here. Uh, yeah, someone said the judge was particularly frustrated. I I couldn't tell that the judge was very frustrated. I know there was an awful lot of objections, mounted by the defense, and I think there were so many objections, I think the judge, because I've kinda tuned in and out of a lot of the hearings in the last few days. They went to a position to where there's a standing objection. I think the judge just, might have said, "Okay, enough for you defense lawyer jumping up and down. We'll just, we'll issue a standing objection to all of the evidence that's presented," which I thought was pretty funny because there's a lot of damn evidence out there. And someone here says Erica someone a lot of hate on Erica Kirk. And I'm gonna tell you, when this happened, um, I'm not a fan of Erica Kirk, okay? I'm not a fan. Not a fan at all of Erica Kirk. Um, for the fact that and TPUSA, and this is my own, and my wife gets mad at me when I say this, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it anyway. Um, Erica didn't do turning TPUSA any favors when she took the lead of the organization. I think, to me, if you're looking back on it, she should have not taken the lead on that organization because she's not a good spokesperson. If all she's gonna do for that organization is stand up at an event and cry and talk about Charlie, I'm not sure how helpful that is. And every time I've seen her at an event, that's what you're down to. She's she's not yelling, she's very understated, and I'm not a fan. And someone in here says Charlie and someone in here, in the chat says, on the YT says, "Charlie Kirk was evil." Charlie Kirk was not an evil man, he had a position, and if you are of a mind if and what happens when people like in the chat here in the YT, I've got a chat here that says Charlie Kirk was an evil person. Well, when you call someone evil, the only thing you're doing is justifying anything that happens to him. And that cannot happen. He had an opinion. You might not have liked the way he expressed his opinion. I didn't like it, but he didn't deserve what he got. So when you call people names, when you dehumanize individuals, what you are saying is that anything that happens to them is okay with you. And I think that is a pitiful position to take. Now, you can say you don't like the guy, you can say you don't like his viewpoints, but to call him evil is something else. And a lot of people on the left, particularly, you know, um, and this same person's following up with Tyler should be let go. Tyler Tyler should get what he deserves. Tyler should get what if he's found guilty, Tyler should get what the law allows. So if you're out there and you're clapping your hands because that happened to him, you need to go check yourself. That's all I've got to say, because that's just not human. Yeah, and someone asked about Graham Plattner, will he have any legal issues? The only kind of legal issues he's gonna have is if those ladies decide to get hold of the prosecutor and press charges, and it might well be a little bit too late. They might have a statute of limitations problem. So, thanks for the chats, guys. I got chats on the YT, chats on FB. Thank you very much. I'm not hearing them through my headphones for some reason. I do not know why, but I'm trying to fix it right now. Well, it wasn't a misunderstanding of Charlie, it was the media on purpose trying to turn him into a demon, and they did a good job of it. That's all that it was. There was no misunderstanding. It was just they turned him into a demon, and that's what you do with a demon, right? If you're faced with a demon, if you know certainly that somebody is out to do you imminent harm, then it is implied that you can do whatever you want to that person. They did that with Mr. Trump, and that's what media and a lot of people on the other side will do that. They'll demonize someone, they'll dehumanize them because then somebody mentally ill, like Mr. Robinson, and I believe he was mentally ill at the time, but not enough to where he didn't know what he was doing. I just think he was obsessed. I think he let a lot of things come inside his head that were inappropriate. And, there you are. That's just my amateur analysis, although I have not examined Mr. Robinson. I want to say that for the record. I don't know if he's mentally ill or not. I don't think he has claimed uh, the defense of lunacy. What are they? That's, yeah, there's a lot to that. That his preferences, his proclivities, Tyler um, his social norms were a little different than what everybody else's was, and I believe he believed that Charlie Kirk aimed to do his type of people harm, which is another rumor. I mean, now was and I've watched enough of Charlie's videos. That just wasn't his bag. He didn't believe in same, gender cohabitating. He didn't believe in any of that. He thought a man and a woman should be married and have kids. That's what he believed. And he promoted that. He didn't need to die for it. Yeah, but there's a lot of discussion out there. That's what motivated. Now there was a if there's yeah, they're arguing that someone made the comment. Yeah, the defense is doing everything they can do to argue this case. Uh, like it's trial because they probably in the back of their mind want to make it hard to get a jury paneled. But the most important piece of evidence, aside from the ballistics, aside from all of the DNA, and there was a ton of it, and all of the DNA was like a trillion, a billion times likely that it was him. I mean, it was the DNA analysis is so overwhelming. But even if you don't believe any of that, his boyfriend, Twigs, I think was his name, the interview, there was about a 13-minute interview conducted by him. And it was so damning to Tyler. You cannot overcome that. he spotted him. He said he recognized him in the still photos. He said he recognized him in the video cameras. He recognized his clothes, his hat. He talked about him engraving those, um, projectiles, borrowing a Dremel. There was DNA on the Dremel. There was DNA on the bits of the Dremel. You're not gonna overcome any of that. And so when his boyfriend takes the stand, it's game over. Um, if I was putting a case together as a prosecutor, I would have put the boy on, the boyfriend, and then I'd have closed my case. I'd have showed some videos. I'd have put the DNA expert on, and then I'd been done. I don't I don't know how you get a hung jury. If you're a sober juror, I don't know how you gonna get a hung jury on that. I don't know. Well, someone is burning up the chat here. I'm not saying someone in here is harping on about if do we know he did it? No, nobody knows he did it for sure, but you don't need to know for sure if anybody did anything in a trial like this. There's forensic evidence, we know that. There's there's not eyewitness evidence, but his boyfriend can tie him to the scene. He has text messages from his phone. I don't know how more plain you can make it. So, I think it's, and you've well, and I was talking about that today. Very good question from one of, listeners, guys, Mr. K. Rob. The question is, do you think he will testify? Uh, if I'm his lawyer, you have nothing to lose. If they're going for the ultimate penalty, and that seems to be what the prosecution is asking for, and they've not made me an offer, if I'm his lawyer and I go to the prosecutor and say, "Hey, is there any way we can get life without parole?" Um, if they don't make an offer, then I think I'm putting him on. I'm putting my client on and letting him tell his story because you can't get any worse, right? It cannot it cannot possibly get any worse. So if I'm his lawyer, of course, as a lawyer, your job is to explain this to your client. You say to your client, "Listen, there's nothing on the table right now. They're gonna try to let the state put you to sleep, so I don't think you got anything to lose." That's what I would say, and that's probably the way that I'd say it. And, it'd be up to the client ultimately, but I would certainly tell my client, "You ain't got nothing to lose. Let's just roll the dice, big man, and see what happens." So, there's only a few things he can say. It wasn't me. Well, first off, he has to say it wasn't me. And then he has to give some kind of credible alibi. Then he has to excuse, like he has to excuse those text messages. So, and that's a good question. Someone wants to know, do I know when the boyfriend, obviously, I don't know when the boyfriend will, Twig is his name, I think. When will he take the stand? I think if I'm that prosecutor and I push it to trial, he's taking the stand last because I want eyeballs on that young man when he testifies, or girl. I'm not sure. I think he's a trans person. Uh, so I would if I'm if I'm doing all of this and I'm trying that case, if I'm the prosecutor, I'm making sure he testifies last. He's the icing on the cake. So, yeah, and there's a lot of there's just so much hate out there, and I don't understand where it comes from. Yeah, he certainly gives enough there's enough reason there in those text messages. Now, oh, someone's talking about Kohlberger. Now, Kohlberger's case, if you remember, I think that was the Idaho case. Um, Kohlberger case, I think in Idaho was that in Idaho, I think, where he went that teacher went by and, done away with the whole house full of those girls. His case was a little different because the prosecutor made him an offer. The prosecutor made that Kohlberger an offer. I don't think the prosecutor in Tyler Robinson's case gonna make him an offer. Well, again, I got somebody, I can't say nothing but love for you. Kirk was all about hate. Never saw him say hate. I never saw and I watched a lot of Charlie Kirk's videos. I watched a lot of his interviews. I watched a lot of his shows. I never, not one time, seen him talk hate, and I don't know where everybody gets that. There's got some nimrods here on YT saying he was all about hate. I don't know where you get that. I honestly don't know where you get that he was all about hate. I never saw any of it. Never saw any hate come out of his mouth. Now, you might not like the way he said things, but I never saw him. In fact, he had this shitty grin on his face most of the time, this real snarky smirk on his face most of the time. He was not ever hateful. He was a smart ass, seemed like, but that's about it. So when you say it was all about hate, I don't know what you're watching. Honestly, don't know. Don't know what you're watching. Thank you. He was, yeah, he had, yeah, he had some different viewpoints. Well, the probable cause will will be decided tomorrow, I think Monday. That judge says Friday, which is tomorrow, I think Monday. So, with somebody in Facebook is talking about the Kohlberger case. These are 2 totally different cases. In Kohlberger, you had a prosecutor that was willing to make an offer for some, now, in a different way, I don't know why that prosecutor made I don't know why that prosecutor made that deal to Kohlberger, other than the families probably wanted that deal made with Kohlberger. Sometimes as a prosecutor and when I prosecuted, and I didn't have any really heavy cases like this, but I have prosecuted and I have had families of victims tell me they don't wanna go through a trial, just make an offer. So that happens. Sometimes family members in a really bad crime don't have the guts or the stomach to sit through and be tortured with the evidence of somebody doing something to somebody they love. So they will want you to make an offer. So in Kohlberger's case. That's what happened. I think there were a couple families that went to the prosecutor and said, "Hey, man, we don't want this. We don't wanna relive this. We don't want it. We don't like it. So we want you to make an offer." In this case, I don't think you're gonna get that. America can't let go. And the victims' families carry a big lever in that process. Well, someone says, there's a lot of people thinking even that Kohlberger listen, this isn't new. The phenomenon of if you look at a lot of stuff, the phenomenon of people gathering together and supporting somebody who does some kinda heinous crime, it ain't new. That we've been doing that forever. You see these ladies signing up to date these dudes on, the D row. When you're on D row and you got these ladies wanting to marry these guys who's getting ready to eat their last meal, that tells you how sick some people are. It happens, and it happens collectively. You get a bunch of people together. The numbskull that done away with the, United Healthcare executive. That's another example. People loving that guy Luigi. Luigi's pretty. Yeah, Charles Manson, perfect example. One of my listeners mentioned Charles Manson. He had followers. That has been happening forever. So for people to say that's a little creepy that people are against are for Tyler and trying to find every way to excuse what Tyler Robinson did, that ain't new. We've been doing that forever. It just happens to be that we have social media out there, and they put a big spotlight on every numbskull and deranged person that thinks, that either one like, look, the thing about Luigi is the one that just is really a head scratcher. He straight up hunted down that man just like Tyler Robinson did, Charlie Kirk, straight up hunted him, and everybody loves him. He's pretty. Free Luigi. It's nuts. So, they get what I hope they get what they deserve. Now, um, that's a good question. Someone wants to know, do I think it's fair to keep the evidence from the public? Yeah, I think right now until trial, yeah. You're gonna see it at trial. Yeah, I think right now, when you put all that stuff out there, there's 3 levels that judge they kept talking about all 3 levels when it comes to the evidence. I think some of that evidence is already out there, and the judge is still letting that be out there. But some of it that hasn't been seen before, he's sequestering or keeping it until trial. And I think that's probably a good idea because the more stuff gets out there, it still makes it increasingly difficult to get a jury. It's okay. I don't have a problem with that. Sooner or later, the people's gonna see it. Thank you guys for the comments. I wish I was hearing them through my platform. I'm gonna have to work on this, see if why it's not working. I'm not getting any of my comments through my YT or my FB. I'm not sure. What's up, BB? How you doing? No, they'll find a jury. You're welcome, guys. Someone's thanking me.
Here's our surface color.
I don't care.
Why?
'Cause I don't care.
But look at it. It's your blue.
If it's blue, I'm fine. Oh, I'm oh my god. I'm actually
Color.
do you not know?
What? Wrong one. And that waterline tile. Waterline
Beautiful.
tile.
I love it.
It's for your decking. That color.
I honestly don't care.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't care. It's not my decision. Want me to pick tile. I don't care. I do not care. I've told them I don't care. I got you, Graham. Yeah, I told them about the black deck. I told them about the black decking. I think it's a bad idea, but, if they're gonna want it, it's just stupid. I've said it already. It's stupid to have black decking. It's absolutely stupid, but that's okay. Oh, yeah, the deep penalty is a serious option. It absolutely is. I think that's what they want. It absolutely is. Yeah, I think it is, chief. Be somewhere around close to 70 grand. We're gonna take up a collection plate. Alright, Kim. Well, and it'll be hotter than hell, right? It'll be hot, hot, hot. That's right. Yeah, I've already expressed my concern. Yeah, Gray's the same. I don't know about that, Kim. Guys, is there any more discussion? Elizabeth looked like she hijacked the, show here. So, an anybody got any other questions? I'm streaming on 2, yes, 3. My YT, I'm getting questions on YT, FB, but I'm not getting them through my headphones for some reason. I'll have to troubleshoot that when I get off. Guys, questions, questions, questions. Questions, questions, fellas. Yeah, Jackie. Oh, no, they knew I was I think well, it's gonna be a public trial. It's gonna be public, but I don't know if they're gonna allow I don't know that they're gonna allow cameras in the courtroom, though. It's gonna be live, but I don't think they're gonna have cameras in the courtroom. There should be cameras in the courtroom during that trial. There should be. I think they said there was gonna be. Yeah, the DP. Why would Erica testify? Somebody wanted to know, is there any way that Erica will testify? I don't know why she would testify. She doesn't have Erica doesn't have anything to add. I don't even think Erica saw the actual deed, so I don't think she has anything to add to the event. So I don't think Erica would testify. I can't imagine why, or what she would have to say other than she loved her husband. We've all heard that before. Alright, guys. Well, victim impact. Yes. Victim impact is different. I can see Erica doing a victim impact. Victim impact statements occur after the trial, but that's not part of the trial. I could see her doing a victim's impact, but that's after the trial. So, guys, I'm gonna leave YT for a sec for I'm gonna leave YT and wrap up this program. I'm gonna stick around with TT, so y'all hang on. And, guys, remember, if you're in YT looking at me, hopefully we had a little bit of a discussion. Uh, life will all collide in your world, give me a holler. I'm gonna try to figure out what's going